Hey people, so this is going to be very different than what I've done before because this is actually going to be a how-to. Um, I know there's not going to be a ton of people watching the live stream, and that's fine. You know, I'm going to leave this up, decided I'm going to leave this up all weekend, up until Monday morning. But after that, this is going to be a video exclusively for my Patreons, the patrons, whatever. The people who decide they want to throw a couple bucks at me each month so that I can do this kind of thing. The, before I get into the making of why I'm doing, why I'm actually, before I actually start making this thing, I want to get into the reasons why I'm doing the Patreon campaign. I'm going to do a whole video about that tomorrow, which will go up on Monday. And the whole purpose of that is so that I can upgrade this video, that I can upgrade the quality of what it is that I'm doing. And also I can start taking this on the road and start going to Los Angeles to do some stuff, I want to go up to San Francisco, I want to go to Toronto, I want to go to all over the country. I'd love to um, go to Chicago to do the International Mr. Leather. There's so many things, so many great things about this community that just aren't being exposed, that I believe it's time that we do that. So I'm waiting for this video to hook up so you can actually see my lovely face, because right now as I'm talking you can't. So just give it a minute. I know as you're watching this, I'm watching the live feed over here. So anyways, why don't I do this? I'm going to take a quick break, make sure this is up and running, then when I come back we'll get going. Alright? Alright, so everything seems to be going well, so let's get moving on this. Kind of shut these things down so I don't get annoyed by them. But anyways, so if you watched the video I did about the items you're going to need to do this, the first thing, like I said, was rope. This is parachute cord. I bought this at Joann's Fabrics. It's less than $5 for the two. Might be a little over $5 if for whatever reason, but it is what it is. Like I said, I got this for about $5, so it wasn't that bad. Second is a core. I did decide, even though I said I may not, I decided to use this wooden dowel. It would be a nice little core if it's just the length of my hand. I would have preferred something a little bit this way, but again, since this is only meant to be used for training and experimenting, it's not, this is something that, yes, you can use this in actual play, but you want to do something a little bit, you want to do something, this is probably not the first, this is one that you can have in your toy bag, but not necessarily use. You want to, your second or third flogger that you make is something you're going to want to actually use when you play. Okay, so third is some kind of metal O-ring or something. I mean, like I said, you could use a little bit of the rope to do this. What I'm using is this guy, and I like the idea behind this because then I can actually attach this to other things. I can actually attach other, other objects to it, like this little key here. So it'd be kind of fun to have a little flogger with a skeleton type key hanging off the end. But that's just part of the fun. Glue, really simple. This is just an Elmer's all-purpose glue, multi-purpose glue. This is, again, I bought this from Joann's Fabrics. Nothing spectacular. Scissors. You're going to need scissors to cut the rope. If you have a thicker rope, you're going to want something with a little bit heavier scissors. If you want to have something that's nice and simple like this, then this can actually be cut with something simple like these. And last thing, and most probably one of the more important things, is rulers. I got 3 different types here. I got a 12-inch, a 24-inch, and a whole yard. Probably not going to be using the yard very much because after thinking about it, I don't want to have this particular flogger be the length, because if you can see the length, this is about the length of my large flogger that I have. You want something that when you're throwing it, you actually already be in control. So at a 24-inch, that's a nice little, nice mid-sized flogger. So again, when you're holding it, it's going to be about 6 to 8 inches of it is going to be your handle, and the rest of it is just going to be your falls. Okay, so nothing, you're not going for anything monsterly spectacular here. You're just going for something that you can use to practice with, get the motions down, so that when you actually get to the point of actually playing with a person, you have the ability to really use the toy for what it's meant for. You're actually able to get in and practice without having that incredibly long length. And yes, you could cut it down, but it would be kind of a waste at the same point. So, if everybody's ready, for those of you who are watching it at a later time, those who are watching it through my Patreon, thank you. If not, I'm just going to do this and ramble on and talk to myself, because that seems what I'd be good at. So the first thing, obviously, is get your rope taken out of its package. And of course you get tape stuck to your fingers. You want to try, obviously, not to cut the rope at this point, because that would be just a waste. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have used black rope on it with a black shirt, because it's kind of hard to see. So that's the first part. Rope, 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 rope. Oh, a little quick tip. If you have rope and you want to bundle it up really well, this is one of the ways I do it. And this was something I was taught a long time ago. If you got a really long piece, like this is a good length of rope. This is 16 feet. Okay. Find the end, go down to your bite, to the other end. Pull it through. Pull it through. And you keep doing this all the way down, and it gets the rope where it's nice and put together. This one's a little off because I'm doing this on the fly. Aha, there we go. You want to get a nice little bit like that. Take it through, pull it tight, take it through, pull it tight, take it through, pull it tight, and you do this over and over and over and over and over, all the way down the length of the rope. And instead of having this big unwieldy rope, you have this connected rope that will be bundled all nice and tight, and you don't have to worry about it unraveling or getting tied up or anything, and then pulling it apart. Really, 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 really simple. A lot of times when I do this, I don't add in the little knot, but some people do. Depends on what you're doing. Depends on who you are. So, and if you got 2 colors of rope, which I think I'm going to switch it up, because again, we're talking about, I think I'm going to leave it alone, because the majority of the small work is going to be with the handle. That's going to be the big chunk of the work. So again, disconnect. Let me lay it down so you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. Rope, 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 rope. I love rope. Rope is one of my favorite things. Bondage is one of my favorite play types. It's definitely right up there with a lot of things, because it's fun. It's just to spend the time and energy to do a proper rope dress or a proper to do any type of proper bondage takes a lot of rope. Number one. Number two, skill. Pretty much 90% of everything that we do here, everything we do takes time, energy, and practice. If you're not practicing, what are you doing? If you've got 10 seconds, grab your toy and practice. Practice your knots, practice your this, practice your that. You want to spend the time and energy to do this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to measure out your falls. This, I just found, is one of the easiest ways, just wrapping it around Okay, see, it's not perfect. That's fine. Totally fine. First thing you want to figure out is how many falls you're actually going to have. Okay, so this has 8. We've got 8 of them going here, and again, this is not going to be perfect. You're going to have to tip the ends. You're going to have to cut the ends to make them perfect. But for this step, it's perfectly fine. And again, any of the extra rope you have, anything, you're not going to be throwing it away. You're going to be saving it. So, very simple. There are your falls. Okay, now, just for the fun of it, like I said I wanted to, I'm going to throw a couple reds in here just for the fun of it. Yeah, I think I'm just going to throw 2 in just for the fun of it. And keep in mind, don't worry about it being exact length. You're not making this as something to sell. You're making this as something for yourself. And like I said, the extra rope that you're going to have, you can always find uses for this. This is little tiny pieces of rope like this are great for if you're doing a bondage scene and you need a connecting piece, like you've got a rope harness and it's you got to connect it here, 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 and here, but you want to connect it up here, and you don't want to have to figure out a fancy way to bring your rope around. Little tiny pieces of rope like this are awesome because you can use that as a quick connect kind of a rope. Just a little, what is it? How many? It's just over, it's like 14 inches. So, a little piece of foot rope you can use. Also as a quick, it's quick to do, do a quick little, little bondage around, just a, a little tie around here. You could do 100 different other things. So you don't ever just go, oh, that rope's useless and toss it. No, you want to keep it. Okay, you want to keep it and you want to use it. Now, keep in mind that also this rope has been, has been held in its package for a long time, so it may not be perfectly straight, but that's perfectly fine. So there, if you want to position it, I'm going to position it nice right in the middle. So you got you got 4 there. Very basic, very simple. This is the kind of flogger that if you had it, you got some nice movement. Nothing, nothing major. It's not a big flogger. You can get in and get some work. And like I said, this is, I'm trying this, and it's got, it's gonna, again, once I've got a core and a handle going and everything, then it's going to be really, really simple. And again, it's going to take time and energy and practice to learn how to use this, but it's worth it. Next thing you want to grab is your ring. You could use, like I said, if you really wanted to, you could actually use the piece that comes out of here and tie it off. And create a handle out of that. If that's what you want to do with that extra piece, go for it. For me, I've decided I want to go and use this little chain connector ring. Now, with the tips being ugly like this, we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But right now, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Now, as you can see, again, these are all going to be out of alignment. They're not going to be perfect. There are people who will spend the time to make sure everyone is exactly lined up. That's great. That's awesome. I think it takes a little more energy than you necessarily need, but if that's what you feel you need to do, then go for it. Try to straighten it up there, make it look right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a quick break, let everybody get catched up. If you just jumped on this video, you can go and start it again and catch up. But I'm going to go take 5, go get get everything you need up to this point where you've got everything cut, everything set, you got your ring in place, and you're ready to start working on the handle. So that's it. That's going to be the next step. Take a quick break. Be back in a couple minutes. Hey people, so back. So hopefully by now what you've been able to accomplish is you've been able to get your falls completely done. Got them all set up. You want to try to make sure that they are even as possible. You don't want to spend forever doing this because you're going to wind up cutting these anyways and tipping them. So you don't want to kill yourself doing that. Next thing is you're going to want to grab the rope you're going to be using as your handle. Now, if it's already got, if you did like I did where you're going to be cutting a chunk of it off, then you wanted to either do one of two things. You either want to tip this end, which I'm going to show you. Let me show you a quick thing on tipping it. First off, need a lighter if you're using the parachute type cord. Hey people, so back. So hopefully by now you'll be able to accomplish is be able to I got get in the volume on that. I'm annoying myself by doing that. So, like I said, what you want to do is you want to take the lighter and you want to just burn down. Yes, your fingers are going to get involved, and if they do, oh well. You're going to wind it, if this is the first time you've burnt yourself this lifestyle, then you know what, you're calling yourself lucky. So, trim it down. You keep repeating this process until you've got your desired thing. Now, if you want to try to push it up and over and get it so it's just pure red, kind of like how this end is, where it's just got a little bit of white showing, you can do that. You can spend that energy doing that. To me, it just seems like a little more energy than necessary. With the black ones, I'll just even go to the point of using a marker to fill it in. So, now we got that. Get down here a little bit more. So, you got your falls laid out. You got your metal ring here at the end. First thing you want to do is create a loop with a knot. Simple knot. You can use fancy knots if you like. You can use, whatever. It doesn't matter the kind of knot you're using. Mostly what you're trying to do is just create a nice little loop so that when you go in for your first connection here, for your first place where you're putting your handle, you can get it nice and tight. Now, if you like me, you want to make these nice and pretty and everything, you can. So I'm going to take a couple seconds and pretty these up because I like that red right in the middle. You can take all the time you want doing this. This is process right here. Is you're trying to. This is more of a thing for how it looks than how it functions. This is not a functional part of of it. It doesn't matter if it's totally perfect or not. If it's not perfect, big deal. You're not. This is not meant as something to be sold or something. This is for you and for what you have going on. You know, like I said, this is mainly, you know, I'm recommending using this for practice, even though I'm going to wind up using this in play. I just know myself. So after you do that, you make sure you're happy with where your falls are. Again, if they're not perfect, like you can see, these are completely just random. You can, you know, go in and spend some energy to get them cleaned up if you really, really want to. Right now, I really, really want to, because it's just really not that pretty. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so again, pull that tight up against the ring, pull that super tight, and now you get into the fun part. Now, you have a choice what you want to do now. If you want to put your core in now, you can. If you want to figure out where your core is going to be and put it in, you can. Again, it's not going to seem very, very stable in the beginning, but that's part of this, is that it's, you know, you're going to take the time to figure it out. It's going to be a slow going process to make sure everything is perfectly lined up and nice and pretty. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just go ahead and do it however you want. And again, the only people who are going to see it is you and the person you're playing with. When you start doing the actual wrapping of the handle, you have a couple options. You can wrap it however you want. For me personally, I like this back and forth type pattern. You can see just a very simple back and forth. Nothing spectacular, nothing major. You're just going back and forth, wrapping the handle. If you get knots in there, you just pull them out. If you want to braid it more, you can do that. Like I said, there's a million ways to do this. There's a million, you know, if you don't even want to wrap it like this, if you just want to grab, like I did on a couple of my other ones where I just used tape, you can do that as well. Part of the reason for the glue is some people like gluing in their cores. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I do recommend that if it's something that you want to do it. It's, you know, also you want to every once in a while just pull on your falls and pull the braiding around your handle down. You want to try to get this as tight as possible. The tighter the better. Also, these are learning how to do the different kinds of knots and things like that are really useful for when you're trying to learn bondage. When you're trying to learn how to do the different play styles. Like if you're really want to get into it and get into the shibari stuff, I love watching shibari. I love watching that play type. It is so intricate and unique, and there are people out there that just amaze me, that the different kinds of play types that you can do with rope. I mean, rope is one of the key things that makes what we do possible. So you keep going back and forth, and I know this part's the boring part, but again, you want to spend your time and energy paying attention to what you're doing, because you want these to be really nice. Nice and tight. You want to keep, every once in a while, pulling them around. And it might seem like it's a lot of energy for nothing, but, you know, like I said, you could just grab some tape and tape it up. But my thing is, if you're going to do something like this, do it where it looks good. Do it where it looks nice. And if I'm gonna, if I am, somebody who's gonna take it to a club and play, I want it to look nice. I want it to look decent. Even though I'm not there necessarily to impress everybody, you have to have some. Yeah, got a nice little email there going. You have to have some. You try to have some respect for the look of your toys, because the better your toys look, it does give you kind of a little status within in the community. Even and then, like I said, but again, the how good your toys look has absolutely nothing to do with how good of a player you are. I've told this story 1,000 times, but I might as well tell it here since I've got time while I'm just sitting here going back and forth on this thing. And by the way, don't be afraid to make a mistake. If you're doing this for the first time, don't be afraid to make a mistake. You are not going to be perfect at it. This is something that when you do it, you want it to look nice, but you don't want it to be, you don't want to spend forever and a day and you sit there and worry over every little nook and cranny on, did I do this right, blah, blah, blah. So when it comes to toys, how they look and how people, it's like, it's very easy to go out and spend a ton of money to buy toys. It's incredibly, incredibly easy to go out and spend a ton of money to buy toys. But the problem is that just because you have a ton of money to go buy toys does not mean that you know what the hell you're doing. I'll give you 2 examples. One year at the Lair Desad in Los Angeles, which I still consider, even though I haven't been there in years, is considered my home club. I was there one evening, and this gentleman who I had seen roaming around for months, never saw him play once, not even once, saw him wandering around, and he was what we call a tool belt dom. And anybody who knows what a tool belt dom knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, and that is simply a person that decides that, to show their toys off, they're going to wear them on their belt for, for no particular reason. Oh, look at the nice floggers I have, even though no one really gives a fuck. They really are more concerned about how well you are skilled at using those said toys. It's like if you're in the construction industry and you see a guy come up with a new high-end, hammers and saws and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that might impress somebody, but that's not going to impress the people it matters. What matters is your skills using those particular things. As you notice I keep doing is that I keep pushing it down, pulling up, and trying to keep this nice and even. If you notice the way these are, I'm trying to keep them nice and even so that it has a nice smooth feel on the hand. Same thing with here. This may not be perfect, but I'm trying my best. So, anyways, as I continue. So he would go around the club with his, with all of the toys on his belt, and he always had this big giant case. I mean, it must have been, at least almost as tall as he is. And he would wander around with his case, and we'd never see him play. Till one day, it was New Year's Eve. I just got done with the girl, with one of the girls I was playing with. I did a co-top scene with her, and the top that I was co-playing with. He's somebody that as soon as he's done, he's done. He's off to the races. He's going to have fun. Not really someone to stay around and do aftercare. Personally, I love aftercare. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire thing. So, anyways, I was in the middle of doing aftercare, and the girl was at my feet, wrapped in a blanket, and just relaxing. I was just kind of enjoying some nice cool water, not really even thinking, just enjoying the thing. And then I saw him come in, with a girl that I had never seen him with before. And I went, oh, okay, that's cool. And I get to see him, he brought in his big giant case, and he brought out like 200 feet of rope, and, tied the girl to the St. Andrew's cross, and, where I would, like, imagine this is where I'm sitting, over with like 6 feet that way. That's where the St. Andrew's cross was. Oh. Let's see if I can get me in the shot a little more. Got the puppy down here. Also. So, anyways, so he comes in with his big ass, toy, wood box. He had tons and tons of rope. Nothing, just like, oh, okay, wow, that's pretty cool. I get to see him play. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching, watching him get the girl all trussed up and get her thing. I mean, she literally, had her arms all the way down, were, bound to the St. Andrew's cross. Her legs were bound, and there was just some very small. I mean, he set himself with a very small target of where he was going to hit. So I was like, okay, this should be interesting. So, anyways, he gets her all tied up, opens up his big ass case of floggers, and I can honestly say that the best thing about his play was I got a nice breeze. That's just it. Just of the floggers. I mean, if he actually hit her more than maybe 3 or 4 times during the play, I would be shocked. Most of what he did was just very, very simple, very generic, not even putting any force behind it. He was just full arm. And I just watched it, and I just sat there dumbfounded. I'm going, let me have those floggers. Let me go to town on them. Let me show you what I can do. Because I could do a hell of a lot more than what he can do, because he didn't really give a fuck. He just basically was there for the show. And if you're just there for the show, then you're wasting your time. So, yeah. So now we've got a nice handle here. Okay, like I said, you wanted something, I could probably go a little bit farther up, but, for what my purposes here, really not a necessity. Now we get into actually creating something for the top of the handle. And you can do this any way that you like. I want to have something that so that it doesn't go too far down my hand, but at the same point, it's not going to be too bulky. So I'm just kind of wrapping it to create a little ball here on the end. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing for just a bit. Now again, I'm probably going to wind up, and just like you should, you know, when you're creating a flogger like this, you want to go back and you're going to want to readjust. You're going to play with it a little bit. You want to tip it. You want to do all these things. Like I said, this is not a perfect little handle, but works for what I need. It keeps it from slipping out of, if I open my hands up a little bit, it keeps it from going out. Okay. You finish the knot. Anyway, I'm just doing, just pulling it through twice, giving it a little bit that. Giving it one little pull through. And necessarily, it's not going to be the prettiest little thing here, but honestly, that's not necessarily the most important part. This monitor keeps going off on me. And again, even after you've played with it for a while, you're going to want to do this. You're going to want to give it a good pull. You're going to want to, tighten everything up. And this is when I'm going to pull out the lighter. What this is also doing is tightening up the knot. Again, this isn't going to be perfect. You might have to disassemble it. If you want to use glue right now, that's fine. There's 100 different ways to do this, but realistically, there's a simple basic flogger for you. I'm going to put the key on just for the fun of it. The fact that the key makes some noise. Makes it even nicer. You can hear that. A nice little snap. That tells you you've done something right. Again, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to wind up having to straighten out your falls every once in a while. You're going to have to spend some energy to make sure you know how your flogger flows. Let's see if I can get you a little bit better shot of that. Again, even right now I can tell that I'm going to have to redo this piece here. And that's fine. That's just part of the experimentation of this. That's part of the fun of doing this. Like I said, I'm going to have to redo this, but again, that's part of this, is going through and remaking and redoing and having spend time. I'm not going to do it now because it's not a point. Like I said, I've already explained this, is that, like I said, I kind of just quickly did it just to kind of think. Most of the time I would expect to spend the time to really spend the energy to getting this nice and tight and getting everything. But as a basic, simple little flogger, really, 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 really nice. Okay, now when it comes to the tips of your falls, One thing you can do is you can do it where it's got all different lengths if you want. If you want to do it where it's got all the same lengths, you can do that as well. I personally like the same length, but again, it depends on the flogger that I'm making. So the easiest way to do that is just give it a haircut. It's never going to be the same length. It's never going to be totally perfect. You're not. This is a home, again, a homemade flogger. And then you're going to have all this mess on your table, so just be aware of that. And then you're just going to want to go through and one by one tip it. And you could spend forever doing this, but I'm just going to do a few of them here so you can see what it's like. But let me get to the other story I was telling you about. So I was in Phoenix at a leather conference, and I had just done a cupping scene with a friend, with a dom, and it was fun. And so I was done. I just finished my scene. Had a good time. Went upstairs. They had a space upstairs, and in the space they had just a place where you can overlook, the main play floor. So it was like a balcony. Underneath was where I had played, but you kind of get a sense of it. So you'd have this upstairs area where people can relax and not really much play going on. A little bit of touchy-feely kind of fun stuff, but nothing really spectacular. But so I was sitting there watching the scene go on, or starting up, and the lady who was apparently the dom of the scene or whatever had this. They had this. I don't even know what kind of rack it was. It was a spinning rack, where I guess it was some kind of clothes rack or something that you find in dungeons. Or just random items are in there. And so she's bringing gets her submissive. He's naked. Which, by the way, if you don't realize, there's a lot of nudity in BDSM clubs, and where the fuck have you been? Yeah, it's part of the fun of it. For an adult, because it's an adults only, kind of affair. We can get away with doing that. So, anyways, sitting up there watching, she has her boy, he's getting naked, she's opening up her toy bag and bringing out her toys, and she's got all of these really, really beautiful single tail whips. All little, all different shapes and sizes. Some long, some short. But all of them having obviously been done by somebody with some skill. These were not the cheap knockoffs that you can buy on eBay, or these were definitely handcrafted flogger or single tails. Okay, spend some real money on them. But what happened? So she's getting her thing all set up. She's getting her thing all set up, and she's laying out, putting all of these gorgeous single tails all over. And she starts playing, and I'm like, okay, I'm just watching, And instead of doing what, I have, I've been around for long enough. I've seen really good play and really bad play. Instead of actually having taken the time to learn how to use a single tail properly. She did the towel snap method, okay, where instead of learning how to throw a single tail with one hand and be able to hit good strike after good strike after good strike, no, she would take it and go, and I'm like, are you serious? You're going to spend all of this time and energy and money to buy. It's like, it's like buying, buying your 89-year-old grandfather a Ferrari. Okay? Yes, unless he's been been a race car driver his entire life, he's going to drive it like an 89-year-old driving a Ferrari. Like crap. Like they don't know what they're doing. They're just going through the motions because they think that's the way to do it instead of actually taking the time and energy to learn how to do it properly. And that's one of my main issues with the way things happen around this community is if you're going to take the time to go and spend the money to buy a nice big expensive toy, learn how to use it right. That'll go buy a cheap toy and learn how to use it properly, then go spend the money. It annoys me when I see people that buy expensive toys and have absolutely no clue how to use them. I still see this with people with floggers, where they'll go, or they chop, and it's like you're not actually accomplishing anything. You're not actually doing anything right. You are just, going through the motions because you think that's how it should be done without taking the time or energy to actually learn how it should be done. Now I've gotten my soapbox. But I'm watching this scene, and I'm just flabbergasted. I'm like, here I'm watching all these other amazing scenes. I'm watching, suspension bondage, where they had a crane, one of those things like you see on you see in a warehouse to lift up big pallets. They had one of those in this facility, but to do suspension bondage. And I'm like watching these people do this, and this is amazing, amazing stuff. But then I turn around and see that. And it's like, you're taking, all of this energy to, to obviously no quality product. But just because you can buy an expensive car doesn't mean that you know how to drive it. And that's really what it comes down to in this community. If you're not somebody who takes the energy to do this and do it right, and takes the energy to learn how to use these toys. And to me, part of learning how to use these toys is making them. Yes, there are some toys that you can't, but the ones you can, like paddles, you can make your own paddle. You can go and get a piece of wood and go into your garage and make a paddle. Okay, if you're going to, if you're going to try to make, if you're going to try to be do flogging, learn how to make a flogger. This is not difficult, as you can see. It took me, not very much time to do this. And yes, I'm going to have to go back and fix it and stuff, but that's part of the challenge of this is learning it, learning how to do it, learning how to take it apart and put it back together. But that's to me, that's one of the big things about this lifestyle. And fuck it, I got time. I'm not on a clock here. I'm going to redo this piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to go take care of some things. And when I come back, I'm going to refinish this piece here. And then I'll show you some stuff on how to use it. All right? Be right back. Hey people, so give me 1 second to kill the volumes on these so I don't get interrupted. So, alright, let's get back to this. So, like I said, I'm going to redo this end of the handle because it was just kind of falling apart. Now, got the tips all ended. They're not, it's not exactly perfect. That's fine. This end I'm perfectly happy with. Everything here is fine. It's now this bit. So I'm just going to go back and forth to doing what I was doing before, except for I'm going to do it all in the same spot to kind of build that handle into the handle up, the hilt or whatever the fuck it's called. And I didn't retip this because I'm going to retip it, I'm going to reburn it again when I get to a point where I'm happy with this. You know, fun's staring at me as I'm doing this. The joy. But this is part of this, the thing about doing this. For some reason it's stalled over here. There, for some reason. Alright. Again, this does not need to be perfect, it just needs to be right. And people go, well, what's the difference between that? And it's like, it just needs to be right for you. It needs to fit comfortably in your hand. It needs to fit comfortably with your play style. And if it just doesn't feel right, you can always redo it. There's no one right way of doing it. That's pretty much the same thing that's true with the majority of the stuff that goes on in this lifestyle. Is there's no one right way of doing it. There's what's right for you, what's right for the person that you're playing with. If what you're doing isn't good for you and isn't good for the person you're playing with, then you're wasting your time. There. And one last time around. And this time I don't think I'm going to tip it. I'm just going to leave it a little bit frayed because I'm going to want to come back later and possibly do some stuff with it. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be right for you. This is not something, again, you're not trying to sell this. You're just trying to use this. Like I said, for me, what this is really, if I was going to train somebody to be a dominant, this would be one of the first things that I would require them to learn to do, is to make their own toys. So, like I said, Nice, simple, basic flogger. Little key just for the fun of it. A hole that does absolutely nothing. This just holds the falls together. Your handle got a wood rod wood dowel in the middle of the handle. See how I like see the length of it. You want to have a bit up here so that it stops. You know, what do they call it? The pommel, to stop. You know, to stop it from going forward. I like having this so that I can use it. This part of this is so that if it does start coming out of my hand and I can feel it, I can actually hold on to it. I also can use this as a way to hold on to it, to throw it. Even by key. This is part of taking the time to learn how to use this, how to get practice. And like I said, what you want to do is you want to take time and you want to practice. I'm going to be doing videos in the future for the Patreon stuff that I'm going to be doing that explains a lot more in detail. I'm going to be going step by step by step of what it is, how to actually learn how to do this. But I'll give you a couple quick tips right now. First thing is, whenever you're using a flogger, you're not chopping wood. Okay. If you're using the single tail or something, then your wrist, you want it to get locked. When you're flogging, your wrist needs to be really, 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 really loose. It needs to be able to do full rotations like this. And half of it is just that. It's just getting this part done, getting this part used to it. Then once you get used to that, when you're getting used to your floggers, getting this wrist movement. Let me see if I can move it over here. But getting this wrist movement. There. See, the idea is you want to have this figure eight movement as your base movement. And I can get a ton of power by doing nothing but moving my wrist. And yes, you will hit yourself. And yes, you want to hit yourself. Yes, you want to know what this feels like when you're playing with someone. What this feels like. I can sit here and do this, and I know exactly what this will feel like on a person. That I know this one, because of the tips, is going to be very stingy. But again, I can also get into some sting and thud. And again, each of the floggers you're going to make is going to have a different bite. It's going to have a different feel. It's going to have a different way of doing things. And you want to take the time and energy to learn how to use each of your toys. Not just go, oh, I know how to use a flogger, and grab a flogger. No, because you want to take the time to learn what can it do, what can't it do, what is the abilities of it. And sometimes it takes energy. You have to spend a lot of time just practicing and practicing and practicing, and it feels like you're just spinning your wheels. But you want to spend the energy to learn how to use your toy efficiently and learn every little detail about it. And no two toys, unless you've got a matching pair of leather floggers, unless you've got something that's handmade for you by a craftsman out of the same piece of leather, no two floggers will ever be exactly the same. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter what anybody says, unless they are the exact same leather used in the handles and the falls, unless they are, you take the time to learn how to use each of them and know that they are identical in every which way and form. Unless they are cut from the same piece of leather, they're not going to be identical. It's always going to be something a little bit different, a little weight variant, a little this, a little that. If you're going to spend the money to get a good flogger, go to someone who can hand make it for you. If you're going to buy a set of double floggers, make sure they're using it from the same exact cut of leather. If not, you're not going to get a really great flogger. So that's about it. I've taken a whole, what is it, less than an hour to put this together, or an hour whatever it is, over an hour. That's it. I'm like I said, if you want to make this vlogger, if you're just catching up to this now, I'm gonna leave this up all weekend. Anything after this weekend, if you want, these are gonna be available through my Patreon account, which I'm gonna do a video tomorrow explaining all that, and it could be you could spend a couple bucks, you could spend a whole bunch of money, but anyways, you're gonna get a lot of really extra cool content because with things like this. So, um, like I said, if you want to do this vlogger, grab your materials, rewind it, start it from the beginning, and make yourself a good vlogger. If not, that's going to be it. So that's it. As I hit the wrong damn thing. That's it for now. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Send me a personal message. All of my info, if you want to be a patron to me to pay on Patreon, the link is going to be below or on the side or wherever the hell it is now with YouTube, depending on if they decided to change it or not. But that's it for now. Get a hold of me through one of the methods, and we'll talk. If you have any questions about making the vlogger, get a hold of me. If not, that's it for now. Be well and safe.